discussing DataWeave. I believe that most of the people who are here are from MuleSoft background or have been in the MuleSoft ecosystem for some time. They know what DataWeave is. So I'll just be giving a brief overview about what DataWeave is and why is it very important for a MuleSoft professional to know about it. Why I say professional is be a consultant, be a developer, be a QA guy who is in MuleSoft ecosystem. DataWeave is something which everyone uses. DataWeave is the bread and butter which keeps the integrations alive. Next, we'll be having a very brief session about DataWeave CLI. Again, a wonderful tool. It is a precursor to the DataWeave playground that we're having. And also, I will be talking about the various ways by using which you can test your DataWeave scripts. Then we'll be moving to the DWScripter, which is the tool which we'll be discussing in some depth, wherein I'll be talking about the motivation from where this tool was built and how you can use it and what are the guidelines that you need to follow. And I will try to give a brief demo about it. Uh, if time permits, I will try to show you the source code and what are the kind of things that I have done to implement various rules so that a developer or a professional can use it efficiently. The next in line is Q&A. So with that, let's get started. So what is DataWeave? So DataWeave is I'll say in layman's term, it is like the bread and butter of our API. So we deal with a lot of APIs, right? So if we are following a 3-layered architecture in MuleSoft, we have an experience API which interacts with the outside world, and then we have a process API in which you'll keep all the business logic. So if you have any transformation, if you have any data enrichment, all those things will be put together inside the process layer. And ultimately, we have a system layer which talks with the system, which encapsulates the end system to which you are sending your data. Now, how you will write some logic or how you will write some transformation. So MuleSoft is based on Java, and when it was built initially, Java is having a lot of codes in it, lot of intricacies in it, which the builders of MuleSoft wanted not to be the case for MuleSoft developers. So they came up with a concept language called DataWeave, which is like an easy version of Java. So basically, you can write transformations using various mapping tools that DataWeave provides out of the box. So basically, if you see this small snippet that we have here, this is a snippet from the DataWeave online playground that we have nowadays. So basically, you have some JSON data, you have some XML data, or you have some other form, a CSV form of data, and you want to take some insights out of it and you want to modify it, you want to enrich it. So basically, you write something, you write a script using the DataWeave language, and that helps you to turn your original data into the suitable output that you are hoping to get. So it is a strong, powerful, object-oriented language that helps us to write quick transformations. And it's very quick. It's very easy to learn. So we have a lot of resources which are provided by MuleSoft. You can go to the MuleSoft documentation. So let me show you some of the MuleSoft documentation that we have surrounding DataWeave. So you just I'm just showing you the entire flow that you need to follow if you want to learn DataWeave. So you just come to the to the documentation section, and there you will have everything surrounding the how you can get started with the DataWeave. So you will have simple transformation, you will have the various functions that you can use, you can have the operators, you can have again a lot of functions are there, you can build your own functions using them, you can write your custom functions. So all those things you can come to this reference documentation and you can go through them. Now, the next topic is, so now we know about DataWeave, right? We have an idea of what DataWeave does and how you can learn more about DataWeave. So how you can explore or how you can try out DataWeave. So the number one options right now that we have is the DataWeave playground. So I will put it out on the chat if any one of you is here attending, to the new to the MuleSoft ecosystem, you can try it out. I will open it up here. So it's like the playground where you can have, where you can play out with your scripts, with your data, right? So on the right hand side, we have an explorer where you can put your data. It allows you to put into different formats: CSV, XML, JSON, text. You just put your data, and then here is where you'll write your transformation. You can this is a simple demo of what you can do. It's limitless. Whatever you want to do, you can just put your data here. You can write your transformation, and you'll have the result here. So this is one of the way. The other way is using your Anypoint Studio. So now I'm shifting to my Anypoint Studio. So in transform message, which is a component, so to the newcomers who are very new to the MuleSoft ecosystem, transform message is the component where you can write your custom DataWeave codes. So once you drag it from the Mule palette and you add it to your DataWeave flow, you can come down to the section where you can write codes, and inside that you will have a preview section. So basically what you're doing is you're writing your code here. You, like in this case, I'm reading my resource from, using the read URL function from my resources folder, and I'm doing transformation here. I can write whatever transformation logic I want. So this is another way. Now there's a third way, which is slightly more complicated and is not used nowadays. That is called DataWeave CLI. So I'll be moving to that DataWeave CLI topic, but before that, I'd like to pause for a minute. If any one of you is having any kind of questions, any kind of feedbacks, any kind of things that you want to add on, it will be great.
I think, Soumya, you can continue. There is no question. We'll let you know if there is any question or query. You can continue.
All right. Thank you, Amit. So to know about DataWeave CLI, I'll just go through what CLI is. So what CLI stands for and how in the earth we are dealing with CLI, because the developers who are working on MuleSoft nowadays, they are not really using CLIs, right? So CLI is the tool that enables you to talk directly to your computer without any graphical intervention. So it is like you're talking directly to your core components of your computer using commands. So back in the days when computers were initially built, I'm just sidelining from the main topic here. They like the mouse was not invented. The mouse was not a part of the standard setup. So we used to have keyboards, and we used to have a monitor, and we used to write commands to ask computer to perform tasks. So CLI is that component which used to help us to do that, to talk directly to the computer. And with modernization, things went up from CLI to GUI, where we were having graphics, and you were having screens, interactive screens where you can actually put your workflows, and the computer will work on that. So like that, we have something called DataWeave CLI, which works on the same principle, which will use a command line interface to accept your data and the DWScript script which you want to perform on that data. So where you can read more on this DataWeave CLI. So we have few wonderful what I'll say documents or articles by MuleSoft ambassadors, and we have one from Manik himself, the MuleSoft legend. So I'll just go through the GitHub page of DataWeave CLI, where you can see the code. It's an open source code, so you can see it. It's mainly written on Java, so Java and Scala. So you can read about it more. You can read more about it here. So DataWeave CLI is more like it will take everything in raw format, and like I said, it's a precursor to the DataWeave playground that we're having right now. So it accepts data in all these MIME types. It will have like what we can do in DataWeave playground. We can do the same thing here. We will have CSV, we will have JSON, we will have XML, which will mention the kind of data that we want to feed, and then we can do our transformation. So it is slightly, if you want to try it out, it's good. You have to set up a couple of things. You have to set up the path variable on your computer. You have to set the JDK, the Java home. And the first thing So the first thing that you need to do is you need to get Gravel. Okay, so that is on which it is, on top of which it is based. Okay, so once you get that, you have to set up the home variable, the path variable, and then you have to run the native CLI command, which is a Gradle task. Okay, once that is done, then that is when you will be activating your DataWeave CLI, and after that it's like a cakewalk. You can just go, you can give your input file. So I'll just take a basic command on DataWeave CLI. So if you see this, DataWeave is like the cursor to your CLI that you want to run a component from the DWS CLI, and then you have the path to the JSON file, which you'll be considering as a payload. And then here you can see, like, the well-known DataWeave script, which is asking the computer to, filter the payload based on the age, where age is more than 17. And it will give you the result, the result in the format which you want. So this is something which CLI enables us to do. Based on it, we have now built, the DataWeave playground, where you can, it's like a GUI, like the CLI, and then the GUI, and there you will have different sections where you can just put your data, do the transformation, and get the end result. So that is more or less about DataWeave CLI. Now coming to the part which I am very uh, excited to talk about, the DWScripter. So DWScripter is, again, like, conceptually, it's a precursor to DataWeave CLI. So DataWeave CLI will give you the end result from a input, right, using the DataWeave script that you are providing. DataWeave Scripter will help you to generate the DataWeave script using an input file. So the idea was, I was working on one of the projects where there was a lot of fields to map, right? And like when we used to work, there was a CSV file or like a Excel file, and like in different rows we are having a lot of data, and we have to map it manually. So it seems like a lot of hassle to me. So I came up with an idea, like, why can't we automate the same? I used Python to write this CLI. So what this CLI does is, it takes an input file. It takes specifically an input CSV file, a CSV file which will have all these fields. So basically, it will take three columns: the source, the logic, and the canonical. So the idea is, we will be unifying the data modeling in MuleSoft. So canonical is the unified data model that your team will decide from a MuleSoft point of view. Source will have all the fields that we'll be getting from the external system, and then you'll perform the mapping. So the expectation will be, somebody will be doing the mapping, like, which field needs to go to which canonical field in MuleSoft. If you have any additional logic, or let's say you want to have a default value for a particular canonical field, that's all good. You have a logic column for that, and you simply put that logic into that field. Now, what the CLI will do is, it will simply run some commands inside it. I will go through that. I'll go through the workflow that is being currently followed inside the CLI tool, and it generates a DataWeave script. So with that, the next question is, how do I run DataWeave Scripter? Like I said, it's a Python-based tool, so you need a Python distribution framework. In my case, I'll be using Anaconda, which is a very popular Python distribution framework. And I've already installed. I have already installed it in my computer. For installing it, if you are very new, and if you are hearing about it for the very first time, it's a pip-based library. So what you need to do is pip install DWScripter. So in my case, I'll just show you how you can get it. So once you have, so Anaconda prompt, again, like I said, it's very popular. You can download it from Google. It's a free framework, so no cost whatsoever, no hidden strings whatsoever. Just once you get it installed, you open the Anaconda prompt and you write pip install DWScripter. So in my case, it is already installed, so it will just try to see if it's there or not. It will just see whether the requirements are there or properly fulfilled or not. But in your case, if you're installing it, it will download all the prerequisite libraries that are needed, and that's it. Now, once you're here, how like to visualize what commands DWScripter has to offer you, you just type DWScripter. So it will give you some of the options which it provides like a guide. So basically, guide is something which will tell you the various rules that you need to follow in order to make the maximum out of this DWScripter tool, right? The mapper is something which you'll be actually using. So mapper takes your CSV file and generates the DW scripts out of it. And trial, in case you are finding it difficult to construct a CSV file for this tool, the trial is there to help you out. So how to use it actually? So you first name it's all like a standard CLI command. You just first name your CLI tool, and then followed by that you have to just press the command. So in my case, I'll be first going with the guide, or let me just clear the screen first so that it's all there. So the first thing it does is it tells you what are the considerations that you have to be aware of. Like, you have to use a comma separated file. It's not applicable on Excel. As of now, we are working on it. Hopefully soon it will be, it will be able to take many more different input formats. Then this is a mandatory and it's non-negotiable. Your file needs to have these three mandatory columns: source, logic, and canonical. Then we have various chronologies by which you have to mention the field names so that it will help the CLI tool to evaluate where to put and how to put it in the script. Then it will have some rules like the last line should be a normal line. It should not belong to any collection. And in case you do that, it will be having an error. So please avoid that. Then there are some rules surrounding the first row, like it should be mapped at the root level. It should not be again belonging to any collection, or it should not be the starting of any collection. And in case there is some default value which you want to use, you have to follow the syntax. And in case if you have something like some null checks, put like if field is equal to null, which will be if field name is equal to null. If you want to check whether if it's not null check, just do the same and use this word not underscore null. Then you will see, like when I actually run this file for mapping, right? When you have a map operator. So where will you get that? Where will you get that line? It will be in the underscore header underscore script section. So you have to put that up from there to the level where you're starting your collection. So all these are the considerations. I know a lot of text here, but whenever you have some time or whenever you are trying to use it, please go through this guide first. It is greatly helpful, and it is put with that intention so that you don't run into unintentional errors. Now I will be going through a trial. Like I'm a new user. I don't know how to build the CSV, right? So I just type the same DWScripter. Followed by that, I want to use a trial. So it will print the CSV file, a dummy CSV file basically, and then it will map the output. So this is something which you must be working on. This is very similar to DataWeave script. We have to make some minor adjustments once we actually go with it to use in our use case. Okay. So if you have any doubts, you just go and you just type out this command and you have the sample file and the corresponding mapping. Now, let's go ahead and work with an actual file. So for that, I have already, okay, one more important thing is the file where you are, or the folder location where you have kept your mapping file should be out somewhere where it is easily accessible. In my case, I have kept it on my desktop. So this, like I've done this activity before actually I joined. So I've created a sample file. Yeah, the one that I was showing. So what I've done is I have taken up some imaginary fields and I've tried to construct a mapping, So like we have field, so canonical 1 map to field 1, simple, canonical 2 to field 2 simple. Now, canonical 3, if you see, we have a null check. If field 3 is equal to null, then send null, else send the value D. Then canonical 4 to field 4 are simple mapping. And then I have built an object. I've kept an object here. And if you see, since it's an object as per canonical, but not as per the source, like the external system which is sending us the data, there is nothing mapped here. Then we have the simple field 5, field 6, which is having some rudimentary logic here. Now we have an array. Now the thing is, the array on our canonical will be mapped to an array on the data that is being sent to us by the external system. So we have to do a one-to-one mapping here. Now, if you have, like, when you'll be initially using using this tool, you will have this DWScripter guide, and in this you will get the meaning of this particular plus plus sign. So this means that it is being taken from a field which is at the root level. Okay, I will just do it like 4. Let's map it here. Then we have like a participant from this array mapped to a participant from the array which has been coming to us from the external system, and like that, so on and so forth. We have an object within that array from the source system, and the same arrangement is there is in a canonical. So you're getting the idea, right? Something which you have to be very descriptive when you are building this CSV file. Once it's done, you come to your your Anaconda prompt, and you do something like DWScripter mapper. What it will do is it will ask you the directory where your file is present. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this location, I'm going to paste it here, and it is going to list out all the available CSV files. So, and all you have to do is you have to select the numbers that is being put in front of it. And okay, so if you see, if it is like if there is something like okay, let's read the error here. The logic should be written pertinent to the fields which is available in the source column. Now if you see here, we have a logic written with field 10, but if you see in my source column, there is no field 10, right? So we have logic surrounding a field which is not coming from the external system, so we can't do it. Now I will just do it as 10, and I'll just save it. Now let's try the same thing again. I'll just do it. Here the screen, mapper, the location of the folder, and this time it's working, right? So the error statements which are kept inside the coding, they are, I have tried to keep them as generic as they can be, so that a person can read them and can make the necessary adjustments to the source file. Now once it's done, right, now once the file is aligning the rule sets in the CLI, it will generate the mapping, and where it will be put, it will be put in the same location from where your file is read. So in my case, I have kept the source file here. So if I go back to my meetup, and I have the mapping file here, which is a JSON file, I can just open it, and I have everything here. Now, if you remember from the
can you show the source file also? Input payload?
Yeah. Okay. So we don't have an input payload. This is the input based on which the DataWeave script is being prepared. So it's like you have to build a CSV file which will be having the source fields, the canonical fields, and the logic. And based on that, you'll be getting the DWScript. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. Gangula was asking to show us the sample input and output. So yeah.
Yeah. So this is the sample input, and this is the output. Okay. So now this is something which we all are familiar with. We are having some well-known functions like is empty, is not empty, and we have the map. So this is the DataWeave script. Of course, it's not, like properly maintained. We have to do some modifications, we have to do some adjustments here, but it gets the job done. Now, if you remember, like when I typed out the command DWScripter guide, it had a point about this header script. Now, if you see canonical n1, right? Cano n1. If I go to my mapping file, cano n1 is an array, right? And if you want to map an array to an array, you need something called map. So here you have it. See, payload source n1. Source n1 is the name of the array on the source field. It is the map line for the code. So basically, you have to use it properly, and you have to put it after this colon here so that the mapping operation can be done. So now, if you take this file, if you take this output, and let me open DataWeave Scripter, DataWeave Playground, I can just paste it here. And then I have to do some string operations. Again, this is something which I'm working on, hoping in next few days or in the next release, I will get it sorted so that we don't have to do all these modifications. So the first modification that you have to do is you have to remove this double quotations, so that otherwise it will be treated as a string. So what you can do is you can come here, select this part, do a control H, and just replace it. It will remove the first quotation, and then you do the same thing with the other one. So you still have some minor things here and there which you have to sort. So once that is done, I think you are good to go. Now you have something like this data with header script. So like I said, you have to place it at the position where it is needed. So I'm just going to copy it out. It will be here, and so you see now the mapping is done. So once you have the mapping, you can put your JSON structure here, and it is going to give you the desired output. So you can play around here a bit. If you have some, if you want to add on something, you can do that here. Or if you want to get rid of some default values which are provided in the CSV file, you can do that here. That is up to the professional who is working on this. But this was the idea with which I started working on this DWScripter. Now, this is the presentation which I wanted to give out to you guys. I know, it's very nascent, it's very primitive. I'll say there's still a lot of things that needs to be worked on, but that is the idea. So with that, I think I am like in a good phase to open up this floor for a Q&A session, and that's it. So I think I'll open the floor for Q&A now.
Yes, Soumya, we have few questions, so I can read it for you. So like if you scroll down, yeah.
I
Few
just
questions, yeah.
Okay. Can you show us the input, payload, and output? I think I've answered that. Your input will be the CSV file where you'll have the field level details with the logic, and the output is going to be a JSON file, which will be generated and kept at the location from where your input file is read. Can you please add field one with some value?
So in the payload, what you're passing is some value and show us the logic is being executed, especially on the field 3 where we have null check and then sending the calculated value.
Okay, so you want me to put some default value for field one?
Field 3 so that when we see the executor in the notebook.
Oh, you want me to put some condition here, right?
Yeah, should be fine. We have
Okay, if field one is equal to, say, me and hey else. Okay. Now run it again. Okay, I have pressed the wrong command here. We have to wait for some time. Okay, so we should have two files now. Uh-oh, this is not the folder. Yeah. So this is the latest one. So if you see, this is the old one. It is having canonical 1 directly mapped to failed 1. But now, if you see the latest one, it is having if payload.failed1 is equal to dummy, then send hey, else say hello. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thanks, Samir.
Okay, thank you. Why go through the trouble of preparing and handling the sensitive CSV file and using CSV commands when we can simply write that? Of course, you can do that. But like I said, when I was working, I was having some 200 fields to map, and I was having very less time. So, this was with that attempt. If you're having 10 fields, 20 fields, of course, you can go ahead, you can manually copy it, you can paste it on DataWeave Playground, all good. But if you have 200 fields, 300 fields, simple mapping, no logic, my question would be, will you be comfortable, getting all these fields and then, doing all the mapping and then testing it out? So yeah, with that viewpoint, I built it. Okay, I don't think someone will prefer DW CLI over DW Playground, considering. I agree, Arun. Uh, I agree to that. Because, like I said, CLI was built in a time when we used to have only keyboards and no mouse. But then GUI came over, and we can say that the DataWeave Playground is a GUI, and GUI always is better.
Cool. Thanks, Soumya.
Okay, thank you. Can we use DataWeave for data migration between SF and non-SF systems? Of course, you can do that. You can do that. We have done that. I'll just take an example. Maybe, we can have an EDA, event-driven architecture, where, you can have events to which your Salesforce is publishing data, and you have an event subscriber in MuleSoft, and, you can put it to SAP system, or you can put it to any random an NDM system. So that is again up to your business requirement, but definitely that's a yes. Okay, I think Amit's okay. We normally write DataWeave scripts to do the mapping. Yep. So I think yeah. Do we have any other questions? Anything?
It will be good if you can share the GitHub repo and go through some of the codes of DWScripter.
Yeah. So okay. So what I have done is I hope you can see my GitHub screen.
Yep.
Okay. So what I have tried to do is I have done some bifurcating, I'll say, on the code that I have written. It goes through a lot of phases. So the first phase is the bridge phase. So bridge is what separates the code from your screen. So it is like a lightweight implementation. Whatever you write, wherever you have files, it does all the entry-level validations on the file, whether it's a CSV or not, whether it's having all the required columns or not, blah, 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 whether your location is accessible by the code or not. Then we have something called rule sets. Rule sets is what imposes the rules on your particular file. It checks whether the meanings of the fields are as per the requirement or not, whether you have all the signs done properly or not, whether you have the spaces in your files as per the requirement or not. So this is like, I will say, the brain of this. It imposes all those rule sets. And then we have the scripter, which does, the scripting part of it. The bridges is also having some animations into it. Like, you can see an active animation happening here. It's just like a gimmicky part of it. So, it takes care of all those things, running the asynchronous things for the code. Now, if I go into the rule sets, so basically it does a lot of Python string based operations. It checks, like, whether it starts with the proper symbols or not. If it is starting with a proper symbol, whether it's having the static regex or not, which will be used to build the scripting. So it is having a lot of string checks in itself. It will append it. So if you see the initial CSV file, we just have the array. So what it does is it will put it in a fashion so that when we'll be building the script out of it, it can read it easily. So that is done to take care of the time space complexity of the code. So like that, it is bifurcating each and every segment, whether it's mapped to a root level, whether it's mapped to an array, whether it's mapped to an object, whether it is a field with simple logic, whether it's having a default value to it, whether it's having a null check to it. So these things are being taken care of in the rule sets. And once it passes all those checks, and yeah, mind you, it's having all those error statements as well. So if I just do a search, so it's having all the 65 different errors which will be thrown out if the file is not as per expectation. And then finally we have the scripter. Scripter is something which will simply format your JSON, and it will be dealing mainly with the data structures where we keep the data, where all the data is kept in a machine readable format, so that it can be done quickly. So these are the three main parts. Again, I'll say, like, this is like the first version of it. There are some major updates which are being planned for it. So, yep. Does it answer your questions, Shyam?
Yeah. So are we using a DataWeave CLI in your DWScripter? No,
No,
right?
it's totally Python based.
Yeah.
All right, we would be using MuleSoft as an integration tool, but we are also looking for an ETL tool. So should we go with DataWeave, or depends on your use case? We have a lot of use cases. I, being a MuleSoft professional, I will say that MuleSoft can be used as an ETL tool. But that, again, it depends on the volume of data, the frequency of data loading, the frequency of data extraction. So a lot of variables are there into that picture. So I will suggest that you will be the best judge of that, whether you can use MuleSoft as the ETL tool or not. DataWeave is a component of MuleSoft. Like, if you want to use MuleSoft as an ETL tool, that will be the tool. DataWeave is with which you will be doing the mapping. So if you use MuleSoft, then DataWeave is the only transformation language that you can use. Sumit, does it answer your question? Okay, great.
One more question. So it will be good if you can share that how we can install the DWScripter in Python Anaconda. Yeah.
All
Maybe.
right. So I will have to, like I said, the first thing that you need to do is you need to get Anaconda on your computer. Once you have that, you go to Anaconda prompt, you write the command pip install DWScripter, and it will be installed on your computer. And every time you want to use it, you have to use it via Anaconda prompt. I have written a post about this, how to use it on your computer, on my LinkedIn handle. I will be glad to share that link over the message here. Alrighty. Any other questions or any other things that you want to share? Use cases? Any problems that you would have felt about using this?
Like anyone wants to ask any question, anything apart from this, like any MuleSoft query, we have still some
Yes.
time, or anything on the Salesforce side, we have home. Anyone?
Maybe Francis can add something.
Yeah, Francis. Yeah.
I can't think of anything to add. It's been a learning exercise for me. My main use of DataWeave CLI has been to pass data output from the Anypoint CLI to get like shortened down versions of the JSON output from the Anypoint CLI. So you've got a different use case here, using it to manipulate CSVs, but I can see how that's going to be applicable for me because in manufacturing, there's a lot of CSV data that's being thrown around.
Yep. I think you can use this DWScripter for your mapping exercise, Edward Francis. So feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn if you have any additional suggestions that you want to incorporate into it. Like I said, I'm planning to make it open source in some time when I am confident that people can contribute it. So that's definitely in the roadmap. Yep. Any other questions? Any other queries? Okay, as an SF person, what MuleSoft capabilities would be good? Add on career progression, MuleSoft Composer or the core Anypoint suite? Difficult question. I will say MuleSoft as a whole will be a great addition to your portfolio because you are coming from a Salesforce background, and MuleSoft is like the 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 what I'll say the road that is connecting to you to different systems. So that's definitely something which you can work on. Does that answer your question, Sumit? Great.
I think Soumya, it was a good session, a lot of learning, and as you said, you're trying to add some value. Maybe we can have a future session where we can complete once you're ready. So
Yep.
yeah, let's give the time back to the audience. Like it's a weekend, and it was a good session. So we have our next session in 2 weeks' time. Sham, you want to talk about that, the topic, and like
Yeah,
what we're thinking
so
there? Yeah.
Sagnik will be presenting integration with AWS, SQS, and SNS. So we have a meetup on 29th, I guess. So you can register for that one, and we can learn something like related to AWS, SQS, and SNS.
Yeah, yeah. I talked to him, and yeah, he was preparing that. Yeah. Abhishek, anything from your side? Anything new in the MuleSoft community which you